Welcome to the Sheffield As Bill Sees It meeting. This is a main share meeting, and today it is with great pleasure and much gratitude that we welcome Nick from London in the UK, who's come to share for about 40 minutes, after which we'll open up for general sharing or if you'd like to ask a question. Thank you, Nick. It's wonderful to have you here, and the floor is yours.
Thanks, Andrew. I'm Nicholas. I'm an alcoholic. And I used to do continuous amounts of heroin and cocaine, but I'm not going to talk about that today. And I looked up the word give. And my sponsor, Billy, in 1992 told me, it's the manner of the giving, it's the manner of the waiting, it's the manner of the praying, it's the manner of how you do things. And he said, how are you and you used to waiting? I said, well, I've been married twice. I'm used to waiting. And I have stepchildren, so I'm an expert at waiting. He went, okay. He said, well, we might have to wait for you to start asking God for help. But he said, I suggest that you stop waiting and start praying now. So, giving. So I looked it up and it says offer, proffer, award, vouchsafe, lay out, shell out, stump up, pledge, confer, donate, contribute, hand over, turn over, make over, pledge, lend, slip, fork out. It means thousands of things, which is fantastic because the AA program is for thousands of people. So however you read your book, that's what it means for you. It's not that I know how the steps are. It's that the sponsee knows what the steps are. So I have to give my version. For anyone who doesn't know me, I'm not like Concord. I don't talk in straight lines. I'm more like an erratic person who's taken many drugs and just go all over the place. So I thought about this. And I thought, well, I know they're going to mention the big book, so let's see what the big book page is. And thank you for reading, whoever read. And of course, you go straight to 98 because it says working with others. So some people believe that the work is doing the steps. I do not. I believe the work starts when we take someone else through the steps. That's the work. And that's where a lot of people let themselves down and let other people down, even though they don't know it, because they don't take people through the work and they wonder why they drink. That's not AA's opinion, that's my experience. So I got struck sober July 8th, 1992. So I'm about to see my 33rd Christmas. And I will be sitting at a table. There will be 2 millionaires. There will be about 10 people. And I will not feel less than because I've been invited. Because I have a spiritual well that is infinitely deep. Ask and you shall receive, Alcoholics don't like asking for stuff because we're self-righteous, self-indulgent, selfish, selfless is where you're looking for. And just in case you don't know who I am, I started drinking when I was about 8, stealing sherry and sherry, other various drinks and offering to tidy up, whereas I was offering to drink. And I tried as hard and as fast as I could to not be me. And I managed till I was 38. And then God put me on the floor. I lost 2.5 pints of blood. I went into a coma. I lost about 4 or 5 teeth. So these are all new. And I lost 2 pints of blood. And I phoned up my friend who'd stopped and I said, I think I'm dying. He said, that's fantastic. I said, pardon? He said, it's fantastic that you think you're dying because we can work. He said, there's a bit in the 12 by 12 as only the dying can be. And let's face it, Nicholas, with all those drugs and all that alcohol, you are dying. You are not living. You are dying to live. And I know a place where we can help you. And he didn't say I, he said we. I said, what's first? He said, well, we go to hospital and get you stitched up. You can see the scars. And scars for me were given to me. I'm going to use the word give a lot because it's in the title. Given to me by God to remember how strong I am, or better now, after about 10 years I worked out how strong God is. Because of my own, I am nothing. So in the big book it says, he may be broke, he may be homeless. That was me. I was living with a heroin addict who was using. In fact, I did my first 2 years sober with a heroin addict that was using. And when I announced I was leaving, they all clapped. They said, oh, we've been waiting. I said, how did you know? They said, well, we all knew. We were just waiting for you to find out. And I thought that was quite funny, but quite sad. You know, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. That would have been a slow 2 years. And if he is, or they are, you might try to help them. So it doesn't talk about giving, it talks about help. So I was talking to a vicar, I don't know, about 2000, and I said, what's your favourite word? And she said, love. I said, what's your second favourite word? She said, help. And some days they are the same. Give everything to God and give everything you can to those who need. You will never, ever regret helping someone, but you might regret not helping someone. Give of what you have. So try to help them. Getting a job, a little financial assistance. So Billy was quite a wealthy businessman. He had a gold Rolls Royce. It's not why I asked him to sponsor me. He was from Glaswegian and I didn't understand a word he said. So I knew that I'd have to pay attention and ask him to speak slowly. And I said, can you give me a little resume of how you've survived? He said, well, I'm 12 years sober and I used to live on a piece of wood. And I said, I don't know. Oh, what's that? He said, well, it was 8 foot long, 12 inches wide and 2 inches deep. You'll know it as a park bench. I knew it was at home. It was a park bench in Glasgow. I used to piss there, shit there, eat there, hold court and drink some. I said, is that Rolls Royce outside yours? He said, yes. I work hard, I've saved some money, and I promised my mum I'd get a Rolls Royce. So I did. He said, I'm going to sell it, but I'm going to keep it for a bit because it will make me some money. I said, is that a good thing? He said, well, sober, he said. I can keep some money. Was drunk, I'd have to just give it away. I give it to anyone asks. I give it to the dealers. I give it to the off-licence. I give it to the pub. I give it to other people. So there was a lot of giving and not much receiving when he was drunk, you know. Then it talks about financial assistance. He said, well, I'd like to give you a job. Now, this was a man who looked after his clothes. I swear to God, he used to pull his buttons off. They call me Nick the Stitch because I sew for a living. And he used to pull buttons off and go, oh, look, these buttons have fallen off. Here's £5. Could you sew them back on? And then he'd find another jacket with a tear in the lining. And I swear I could see the scissor marks. But bless him, he was giving the opportunity for me to gain some self-esteem. He was giving me love. He was giving me help. So I know about help. So just to tail off from where Billy was. So I used to go to this meeting called As Bill Sees It. So I know what's going on here. And there was about 150 people. It was in a Methodist church in King's Road. And the great, the good and the wealthy and the poor, I'll be one of the poor, used to attend. And there were about 7 men called Nicholas. And I'd been going there about 2 years and they needed a new secretary. So a man from behind me who was my sponsor, but I didn't know, said, I think Nicholas would make a fantastic secretary. And I thought, well, I hope it's one of them because I don't know if I'm ready. And guess what? I was ready and they voted for me. And this woman, it was a female lady of AA, used to get the page at random and type by hand 150 pieces of paper with the page on, by hand. And I just thought, Jesus Christ, that's fantastic. That is ultimate giving. That is just brilliant. And she'd put them on all the chairs and people would screw them up, light their cigarettes with them, fold them up, put them in their pockets, ignore them, put them on the floor. And whatever happened, every week she would type these things. Then occasionally I'd see someone go up to her and say, oh, thank you, Mary. Her name was Mary. That was really nice. Thank you for typing all those out. And she said, oh, I'm not sure what you're talking about. You see, the idea is to give without other people knowing. When you go into a meeting and you see no milk, go to the milk shop and buy some milk and put it by the tea. And don't give anyone a clue that you bought it. If you go into a meeting, give service. If the chairs aren't out, put the chairs out, sit on the chairs and say hello to people. Do not tell anyone you put the chairs out. This is the manner of the giving. And it goes on to talk. It says, give them a little financial assistance. So Billy didn't give me any money. He introduced me to the concept of sober working for money. A man is worthy of his employ. There used to be this song by Heaven 17. It had a picture of Nazis on the front saluting. And it said, the dignity of labour, which they stole. But I looked it up. You know, it talks about it in the Bible. A man needs to work. He needs to help. He needs to give to other people. Now, I'm not a Christian with a big C. I don't go to church. I like music a lot. There's a group called The, and Matt Johnson wrote a song, and it said, God doesn't even go to church. You see, church is a man-made thing, whereas God is a God thing, and they are different. I was taking a boy through the work yesterday, and he didn't know what the exact meaning of synthetic was. So I gave him the dictionary and told him to look it up, because we don't do Google. We're not allowed to text. I can text completely drunk and go, I'm doing great. So I don't ask, I require my sponsees to phone me and let me know. And they give me their version of the day. And the only thing I ask is, how's your mum? Anything they leave out, that's what they're afraid of. Because they don't want to give me the full picture, because they are ashamed or afraid, or they'll think I'll judge. And I said, unless you give me the facts, I can't direct you to who to speak to. But you know who to speak to. There is one power, and that one is God. May you find him now. I said, it's so fantastic. It says that sentence before how it works. Not after you've done the steps. It says God is here right now for you. Well, I'm not sure about God. I said, he's not sure about you, but he's prepared to give you a chance, because I was talking to him this morning. Pray. So that's how I learned to give instruction, to give direction. I mean, you can suggest any you want. I mean, I had policemen suggesting that I stop drinking. If they'd given me a command, like I'll arrest you if I catch you drunk again, that might have worked. But suggestions, they don't mean shit to an alcoholic who's drinking. Yeah, right. Here it carries on. And it warns you. Do not deprive your family, your creditors, of money they should have. So I had a sponsee phoning me up and he said, one of my creditors is giving me shit. They want my money. And I said, oh, could I stop you there? It's their money. They just want their money back. They need you to give them their money, the one that they gave you in good faith. So you haven't got any money, not until you paid your creditors. I said, when you finish paying your creditors, you will lose a couple of stone, good for your vanity. And I said, off your head and off your back. I said, when someone shouts, oi, you owe me money, you never ever have to turn round again because it's not you, because you have given everything back. And when you're new, you don't like that because you're still selfish and self-centered. Why would you think of other people and they needed their money back? You know, oh, banks are enormous. They don't care. Well, imagine if 10 million people didn't give their money back. There'd be no banks. Perhaps you will want to take your man into a home for a few days. Tried that. Don't recommend that. They steal shit. They go around looking for money. They sell you clothes. I had to have a chat with my sponsor about that. He said, might. There's a clue in the word might. He said, you're not sober enough. He said, I applaud your stupidity. He said, you didn't phone me about that beforehand, did you? You always phone me after the event. He said, I can't really help you after the event. He said, it's a bit like newcomers. I said, what? I said, well, he meets she and she meets him. And it's like two fucking garbage trucks and they collide and there's shit everywhere. Do I look like I clean up shit? And I just thought, yeah, right, yeah. So, you know, phone your sponsor before you start giving and doing this and everything, you know. Take instruction. Be sure to use discretion. So I'm a grammar school boy. I know what discretion means. But some people don't. And you should explain kindly what that means. So what I do is I talk about tradition 7. So I have written for the Grapevine in the Chelsea area of London. And it was about giving. So Colonel John Smythe Ferguson, they've all got double-barreled names, colonels, was so impressed with Alcoholics Anonymous, he sent £10,000. For our Americans, that's about nearly $15,000. And said, I would like to donate this to AA. And they phoned me up and they said, Nicholas, you know about writing. Could you write a letter to the Colonel and explain why we're sending the cheque back? I went, yep. So I have to have knowledge of the steps. I have to have done the steps. I have knowledge of the traditions. I said, dear Colonel, it is fabulous that you want to give, I was talking about giving, money to Alcoholics Anonymous. We are so made up that your son found sobriety and you got to live with him as your son, not the alcoholic who's drinking, but the alcoholic who was sober and saw him till his end of days. It must have brought you great joy. We assure you it brought us great joy to help your son. However, tradition 7 prevents us from accepting your money, although given from your heart, not your head. We are most grateful, but return your cheque. For your information, I have written in pencil unapproved agencies that might be able to help drinkers. We are so proud that you are proud of AA and your son. Please, in your daily life, if you meet anyone, tell them the story of your son. Regards, Nicholas L., member of AA, 1992. And he phoned me up and he was crying. That's how profound we are when we give. But it's the manner of the giving and who's giving. So to the newcomer, I said, so when you give, you put your hand in your pocket. This is before Skyping and all that nonsense. And you get your dollar bill out, or you get your pound out, or you get your 50p out, and you put it. And the moment it leaves your hand and it goes to AA, you have given it to AA, and it is no longer your property. You might have a say in the group conscience as to where it goes, but it no longer belongs to you. He said, I don't understand. I said, I'm going to tell you about a stream, a high mountain, a river, and a sea. He went, what's that got to do with AA? I went, listen. The land is grateful that God has rained on the mountain. The water collects into a small pond and starts to descend down the mountain. The water is afraid. The small drops worry that they will be lost in the stream. The drops form together and become the stream. The stream is afraid because it thinks it will be lost in the ocean. And the ocean cries because someone else has come to join them. I said, me becomes we, and it's all under the purview of God. Oh, he said, that's pretty powerful. I went, yep. Get your hand in your pocket and start putting money in. And every time you reach another 5 years, double the money. If you start putting £1 in and you're 30 years sober, there is something awfully wrong. I don't understand. I said, well, in 30 years' time, you'll hopefully have got a job. Your wages will have increased. You will be sober and you will be grateful. It's the nature of the giving. And I said, and when the notes get bigger, no grandstanding, fold them up and discreetly put them in the pot. No waving them about. This is obscene. The nature of the giving, the unknown, a bit like God, unknown, unseen, he moves about. We are all here by the grace of God, because if we weren't, and we didn't believe we could do that, because my step one tells me that I will use and that I cannot stop. So how dare I say that I stopped? Be certain the new person will be welcomed by your family. Another warning, not trying to impose for money, connections, or shelter. So don't go around giving flats. Don't go around promising rooms. Don't go around giving checkbooks. His sole purpose is for you to carry the message by doing the work with the new man. That's what we do. Should you, however, decide to help in another way. So I had an old car. It had 93,000. It was a Nissan Micra. It's the Mini of the century. It took me everywhere. It took me to this meeting and that convention, took me to France. It took me everywhere. It was the recovery yellow banana. We used to call it the banana jag. We had a top speed of about 78 and then we had to push. And we just went everywhere and I fucking loved it. And I wouldn't let anyone pay for the petrol. I didn't tell them how much it was. And we just went everywhere. Anyway, my brother-in-law decided that it was a bit old and that his sister, my partner, who's next door, who chose the reading, by the way, I said, just open that book and just choose a reading. So Mel, my partner, chose it. So a God moment. And he said, well, he said, I know it's COVID. He said, so Volkswagen will be quite quiet. Why don't you go and choose yourself a car, phone me up and I'll buy you it. So he bought me a car. He just bought me a car. And there were 3 cars because you couldn't get them. And I said, oh, I like that blue one. And he said, you're buying a car because you like the colour. I said, oh yeah, I make beautiful things for a living. And I really like the blue one. He said, oh, that's the turbo model with the dark this. It's got a top speed of 83. I went, that's fantastic you gave me that information. I said, but the legal limit in this country is 70 miles an hour. It will be fine. And he said, he couldn't understand it. I'm thinking, well, you're not allowed to drive more than 70, otherwise they put you in prison. You know, they take your car away. But it was fine. Anyway, so I had this car. And then the mayor of London decided the car was too dirty. Even though there were cleaner, newer, dirtier, newer cars, he went, nope, you got to get rid of that car or pay £100 a month to drive in London. So a friend of mine, whose granddad built the Channel Tunnel, he's really wealthy, he was sponsoring this kid. And he said, this kid hasn't got anywhere to work. So I never met this man, but I gave him my car. I just gave him the car. Because that's what you do. That's not an AA thing. I made a choice. So I gave him the car. And he got it to 120,000. He got a job and he's still not drinking today. Now, I'm sure the car had nothing to do with it. But on a practical level and a love level, I could help him. I could help another alcoholic. He never knew my name. He never knew where it came from. And he said, it's got an MOT and the insurance has been paid for. Yeah. Help where you can. Don't tell them. Anyway, about the money, the connections of the shelter. Permit that and you only harm him. So focus on why he's here, why you know each other. And for me, that's important, you know. I give of my time, I give of my love, I give of my unconditionality because that was shown to me. I was given great love, you know. I never forget the first time I was given help regarding prayer. So there was this lady and she was called Trina and she was blonde. Now, some might have called it mild stalking. I really like Katrina, and I remember she turned round. She said, I don't sleep with newcomers, and you're new. She said, anyway, I phoned her up, and I said, I'm not sure about God. So she said, well, that's fine, she said. I'm not sure about God, but I pray. I said, well, how do I pray? She said, well, none of my family are sailors, but there's a sailor's prayer. My boat is small, the sea is big, please help me, God. So I started with that, and then I put rowing in. And then I used to ask God for bigger oars. And I told this to my sponsor. He said, oh, no. That's demanding. He said, why don't you pray for strength so you can row faster? Oh, gift from God. Debbie knows exactly what I'm talking about. So my sponsor can give me his experience and turn it around. See, I, at 33 years, am still selfish and self-centered. When I wake up, I think, how am I doing? Not how the fucking newcomers are doing, or the people who are still drinking. I still think, how am I doing? And I've got United Airlines to thank for that. Hello, welcome United Airlines. We're going to give you, so listen up, sponsorship at 30,000 feet, a lesson on how to do your seatbelt up and how to use the oxygen masks. This is how you do it. Click, pull, secure. Thank you. Should the event of a collision, and I'm thinking, oh right, terrify us all. Should the event of a collision, and we are going down, I thought, well, aeroplanes are supposed to go up, but I get your point. We are going down. We might lose cabin pressure and oxygen masks are going to come out. Do not be worried about this. Grab your action mask, put it over your face, strap over your head and adjust the strap before you talk to or see about anyone else. So make sure you're sober and have done all the fucking 12 steps in the order before you start telling people how to do it. That would be a big hint, just in case anyone got a bit confused about that. You know, oh, I've got step 9. Yeah, but you're on step 3. Yeah, but I like... I said, no. You get the promises in step 9, and that's what they're outlined. I said, there are promises in every step, but what? That's not for you at the moment. You are trying to get to step 9. Working with others, 97. You may be aiding in his destruction rather than his recovery. Warning. Big Book is full of warnings, death and God. And hope. I always tell people it is imperative to give. I said, do you know where imperative comes from? They said, no idea. I said, well, it comes from the Latin word imperator. And he said, why is that important? I went, well, he was some bloke. He used to kick arse, did the emperor. I said, you know, in the gladiators, and they were all chopping each other's up. He went, yeah. Well, there came to a point when one bloke was on the floor and another bloke had a sword, and he used to look to the emperor. And what he was asking was, emperor, because the emperor was a power greater than him, should I kill him or should I let him live? And the emperor went, live, die. So when they use imperative in the Big Book, they are talking about life and death. This is serious shit. If you're an alcoholic like us, you have to give your attention because you might die. You have to learn to give and you learn to receive. Give instruction, take instruction. I used to send my mother's Christmas presents back and go, I don't like this model. I need the brown one and you should buy it here. I've enclosed the extra money. Please don't give me stuff I don't want. That's me being nice to my mum under the drink. Not very nice. Appalling. Be sure you are doing the right thing. And here's the nub. Helping others is the foundation stone of your recovery. A kindly act once a while isn't enough. Bob Dylan, one of my favourite men ever, in the music writing things, I'm not talking about the state of his marriage or his arrogance or whatever, but as a musician, as someone who wrote, who got a Nobel Prize, sings, you taught me to give when I was in poverty. So you don't need to have money. You just need to know how to give. And to give, you need to be kind. We do a pass it on when there's a convention and say, this is what we did in convention. And I just did a one sentence of pass it on. I went, be kind, be kind, be kind. And when you think they're idiots, be kinder and explain. He said, there are no idiots. There's just me being arrogant. So I am trying to give my advice and give my time and give when asked. Fortunately, I go to Al-Anon. I've been going there 15 years now. And I love the way New York girls, they're usually quite old, swear. They usually come from New York. It's absolutely brilliant. There's this lady called Ethel or Carol or something. It doesn't matter what she was called. And she said, hey, listen up. And she looked like she was 200 years sober and definitely in charge. And we were in Boston. And on the table, they had a big switch with an electric light bulb and it was 200 watts. And she said, when this damn light goes on, you will cease talking. And I thought, woo, I'm a little boy from London, you know what I mean? And she said, there's 3 ways to share in this meeting. My name is, and I haven't done the steps, I don't know shit, and it's nice to be here. So I thought, whoa, okay. I thought, I'm going to wait for the second and third. So she said, number 2, I'm in the steps. I have not finished. I'm a member of this group. Thank you for letting me share. And then 3, if you've done all the steps and you've done them in order and you are sponsoring people, you are allowed to share. Anyway, it was going round and round and it was coming next to me and I thought, I don't want to incur the wrath of Mary because she looks like she'd come and give me a slap, you know. So I said, my name is Nicholas and I'm an alcoholic and I've done the steps in England and I think I did 1 to 12. She went, hey, there's a boy. This shit worked 6,000 miles away. She was just brilliant. And she said, well, Nicholas, she said, what have you got for us today? I said, I've been going to Al-Anon lately. And I said, apparently, according to this New York lady, there's 2 ways to do things. She went, there's, 2 important things to remember. 1, there's my business. 2, there's none of my fucking business. And I get confused and think everything's 2. It was just fantastic. It was just the conviction that Mary swore. But she got her point across. And I can tell you 20 years later, because it stuck with me. Not everything is in the book. I look for hope, experience and directness sometimes, you know. My mum used to give me it. So I go, Mum, when I hit my thumb with this hammer, it hurts. And she went, well, don't do it. Imagine that. 7-year-old, don't do it. See, it wasn't step work. It was just plain sailing. It's just like common sense because I'm a bloke, you know. Girls seem to have a bit of common sense. Blokes, we jump out of aeroplanes, canoe over Niagara and wonder why we die. You know, parachutes fail, we shoot people. We're just nuts, you know. So my good woman is next door. And I never say Mel is my other half because I heard a lovely black gentleman at a convention, and it was Narcotics Anonymous. Oh, said it. Anyway, he had a stick, and he used to inject in his thigh. And he said, I don't have another half. There is God, and I am a complete person. I absolutely love that. His self-esteem was locked solid. He knew what he was. I am a child of God who gives and takes instructions. I am on this planet 42 years clean and sober, and I will not yield unless God tells me. I thought, blimey, but he's right. You know, I'm going to end with this. So my home group used to be in Chelsea, and it was in a school, and there was a cupboard with books. And whenever a newcomer had an idea, we go, get the book, get the book, get the book. We go to the back and we bring the book out. And on the front, and we'd had it embossed in gold, newcomer ideas that worked. And we give it to the guy who had an idea. And he'd look at the book and he'd go, there's nothing in it. And everyone would go, never, newcomers don't work. Sharp and listen. Sharp and listen. Brilliant. If you can't have a laugh, what are we doing here? I've loved it. Nobody's run off. I love you all. And that's my version of the nature of the giving and how to give and how to receive. Thank you very much, Young, for asking me. Love you. Love you to see Andrew. All the people I don't know. All the people I do know. Another day sober. Coming up to 33 years Christmas. I'm going to celebrate it, and there's going to be no alcohol in. And just in case you get offered non-alcoholic champagne, just say to the server, I believe that's for non-alcoholics, and I'm an alcoholic, so it's not for me.